Most people talk about lateness as if it lives inside the clock, as if minutes are the issue, as if the problem is only that someone arrived. 7 minutes late, 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late. But lateness is rarely only about time. It is often about command. Command over the morning, command over emotion, command over priorities, command over what matters enough to be protected in advance, Daniel used to say. He was just bad with time. That is what a lot of people say. It sounds harmless, almost charming, as if lateness is some fixed personality trait instead of a repeated decision, disguised as inconvenience. From the outside, his life looked normal. Work, church, friends, plans, responsibilities. Nothing dramatic. But if you watched him closely, you would have noticed that he was always arriving, slightly after the moment, apologizing, settling in late, walking in while others had already begun, making people restart things, repeat themselves, or quietly adjust around him. And the uncomfortable part was this: he was not late for everything. If something felt rare enough or important enough, he moved differently. That was the first truth he did not want to face. Because people are rarely late for what they deeply fear losing. They are rarely late for the flight they cannot miss, rarely late for the interview they believe could change their life, rarely late for the person they are desperate to impress. So when someone is always late to ordinary commitments, the issue is not always that they cannot manage time. Sometimes the issue is simpler. They believe the moment will wait for them. They believe the room will adjust. They believe their disorder can be absorbed by other people's patience. That is where lateness stops looking small, because now it is not a scheduling issue. It is a respect issue, not always malicious, but real. Daniel did not think he was disrespectful. He thought he was busy. He thought mornings were chaotic. He thought life was full. He thought everyone understood. And to be fair, life was full, but so was everyone else's. The difference was that other people were carrying pressure without requiring the room to keep paying for it. This is one of the things chronic lateness exposes. A person starts to think their reasons are special: traffic, oversleeping, last-minute tasks, a long call, a slow start, a lost key. One more thing before leaving. And yes, some days genuinely go wrong. That happens. But when lateness becomes a pattern, it is no longer an accident. It is structure, or rather, the lack of it. A man who is repeatedly late is usually not suffering from a mysterious curse. He is often living without enough margin, without enough foresight, and without enough honesty about how long things take. He is negotiating with time instead of preparing for reality. And reality always wins. Daniel kept learning this in the same humiliating ways. A service already started, a meeting already moving, a friend already waiting, a room already formed without him. Each time he would feel embarrassed, but embarrassment alone did not change him. He kept treating each late arrival as an isolated event instead of evidence of a deeper pattern. The deeper pattern was not just poor timing, it was disordered living. Late sleep, late decisions, late preparation, late departure, late respect. That is what people miss. Lateness usually begins long before the actual delay. It begins the night before, when nothing is prepared. It begins in the morning, when the first minutes are wasted. It begins in the shower, where the mind drifts. It begins with the outfit that was never chosen, the bag that was never packed, the route that was never checked, the alarm that was snoozed. This is why punctuality is such a revealing habit. It forces you to meet reality early, to think ahead, to leave margin, to respect uncertainty, to understand that traffic exists, delays happen, and the world does not bend. Because you meant well, Daniel started to realize that being late was quietly lowering how seriously people took him. Not because they hated him, because timing creates impression. A man can be talented and still look unsteady. A man can be intelligent and still feel unreliable. A man can have good intentions and still communicate again and again. I was not ready when I should have been. And people feel that. They may not always confront it, but they feel it. The friend who says, "No worries," while mentally adjusting what they expect from you. The manager who stops giving you the most time-sensitive opportunities. The group that starts telling you an earlier time because they no longer trust your stated arrival. That is not a small consequence. That is reputation being slowly rewritten. A lot of people think reputation is shaped only by big moments. It is not. It is also shaped by repeated small signals. And punctuality is one of the clearest. Because showing up on time says something quiet but powerful. I knew this mattered. I prepared accordingly. I did not assume. Your time belonged to me. That is dignity. That is discipline. People often describe punctual men as more mature, more capable, and more trustworthy, even before those men have proved much else. If this is resonating so far, subscribe. Not for louder motivation, but for the kind that helps you tighten the parts of life that quietly shape respect, reliability, and self-command. Now back to the script. Daniel finally understood what was happening. The day he made a comparison, he could no longer escape. There were certain things he simply was not late for. When the stakes felt high enough, he became organized. When the opportunity felt rare enough, he left early. When the person mattered enough, in his own mind, he moved with urgency, and that was the mirror, because it showed him. That lateness was not fully about inability. It was partly about hierarchy. He had ranked some moments above others, and the lower-ranked moments kept receiving the leftovers of his discipline. That is uncomfortable to admit, but powerful once you do. You do not only need better alarms, you need cleaner values. You need to stop lying to yourself about what your habits are saying. If you are always late to certain rooms, certain people, certain commitments, then somewhere inside you have decided they can absorb the disrespect without major consequence. That is why some men stay late to church, late to small meetings, late to ordinary promises, but suddenly become exact. When somebody powerful, rare, or glamorous is involved, the clock did not change. The perceived cost did. Once Daniel saw that, he stopped trying to fix lateness. With emotion, he stopped promising himself, "Tomorrow I'll do better." He stopped relying on morning urgency to do the work that evening discipline should have done. Instead, he changed the structure. Clothes chosen earlier, bag packed earlier, keys placed earlier, alarm respected once. Departure time moved forward, calendar treated honestly, travel time padded, margins protected, nothing glamorous. That is the point. Most character repair begins with systems, because the man who is always late often imagines he needs to feel more motivated. He usually needs to become less negotiable, less emotional in the morning, less optimistic about timing. Punctuality is not only politeness, it is trained self-command. And there is another reason this matters. When you are always late, you start training yourself into a lower standard. You become used to rushing, used to apologizing, used to entering flustered, used to beginning important moments from underneath yourself. That does something to a person. It teaches him that disorder is normal, that almost made it is good enough, that recovering badly counts the same as arriving ready. But it does not. A man who arrives on time arrives with more than his body. He arrives with composure. He can observe the room, settle his breathing, gather himself, start from strength instead of apology. That changes performance at work, in church, in relationships, in any room where first energy matters. Daniel noticed this quickly. When he stopped rushing in, he stopped shrinking in. He spoke better, listened better, carried himself differently. Nothing mystical happened. He stopped beginning important moments from a position of disorder. That is why being late is often a sign of something deeper. Weak preparation, Soft standards, hidden arrogance, emotional living, disrespect disguised as busyness, a habit of expecting grace without giving discipline. Not in every case, but often enough to take seriously. And the opposite is also true. When a man learns to be on time consistently, he is rarely fixing only one thing. He is strengthening multiple things at once. Respect, margin, restraint, foresight, reliability, self-respect. That is why punctuality has weight beyond the clock. It reveals what kind of man is underneath the schedule. So if you are always late, do not ask only, how do I become faster? Ask something deeper. What do I keep underestimating? What do I keep delaying? What have I taught myself is acceptable? Where am I expecting people to absorb what I should have managed? And if I can be on time for what intimidates me, what does that say about the things I keep arriving late to? Daniel did not become a different man overnight. He simply stopped calling a repeated lack of discipline a personality trait. And once he did that, his timing changed. Then people's experience of him changed. Because being on time does more than protect minutes. It protects meaning. It tells people they matter enough to be prepared for. And it tells you that your word is not separate from your behavior. Being late is not always about the clock. Sometimes it is about character asking not to be examined. Examine it anyway. Let the ideas compound.